Our second speaker, our second keynote speaker is Dr. Narendra S. Bhatt. Dr. Bhatt has 40 years of teaching, clinical and research experience, and pharmaceutical experience as well. He's a recipient of 4 national awards, 1 international award. He's the 4th generation of Ayurvedic physicians in his family. Let's welcome Professor Bhatt, who will be speaking on validating Ayurvedic therapeutics, challenges and solutions. Thank you.
Ano Badraha Krutavo Yantu Vishwata. Chairman Dr. Shekhar, my fellow speakers, and fellow Ayurvedists from all over the world who are present here. Since morning, we have been listening to different aspects of what Ayurveda can do and what Ayurveda has potential to do. One of the major challenges that we come across is, where is the proof of efficacy? Where is the proof? So whereas I have been involved with the academics and research of Ayurveda for a very long time, more than 40 years, my today's presentation is based on nearly 20-25 years of research, mainly clinical research that I have conducted, both as an academic as well as in industry. Yep. Let's say, what is validation? And I'm straight coming to the topic. What is validation? Validation is a process that establishes suitability of mechanism or a system to performing a particular task. In our case, clinical efficacy. I still remember 40-50 years back when I entered Ayurveda as a student. People were wondering, why the hell you want to do research? My teachers used to say, no research. And then today, research has become a buzzword, as we call, a buzzword. We cannot be away from the societal and the environmental changes that we need to face. We are living in a different world. We may think of self-sustaining and self-realization, but it reminds me I'm coming from a city called Mumbai, many of you know it, which has a population equal to the whole of Netherlands. And our per kilometer density must be, I think, about 20 times more than that of Netherlands. Where a person moves from one place to other place and he has hardly time to look into oneself. That's the life we are living in. And that is why we need institutional medicine. And when we go for institutional medicine, we need to know how to handle it. We have been following the conventional approach. Now, when we say conventional approach, it's very interesting. We always used to call modern medicine as Western medicine because we know that it came from West. Then there was a word which was called as allopathy. And suddenly anthropologists and social scientists issued a new word, conventional medicine. I was wondering, is my system conventional or is this system conventional? That is where what conventional medicine says is different. You go through a process. And the whole medicine which Anandji just now talked about it, we have been debating since morning, has been driven by only one thing, and this is solution. Identify a new disease entity, identify a new disease mechanism, and look for a solution, look for an agent. Fortunately, for Ayurveda and for all of us, the science has changed a lot in the last 25 years. After the invent of biomedicine, genetics, molecular biology, and so on and so. I'm wondering if this would not happen, what would happen to Ayurveda? But fortunately, science has changed. And science has changed in favor of Ayurveda, according to me. If we do well, I think the future of Ayurveda is going to be much more better than what the potentials were about 30 years back or 40 years back. What we need to do is change this trend, which is visible on this slide. We start from an expected searching for a molecule and go in one way, and finally we end up with clinical research that is the longest path, and multi-billion-dollar business is there. Fortunately for us, and those who are conversant with the medicine, pharmaceutical industry, the pharmaceutical industry is undergoing a very, very big stress period right now. They have not been able to identify new molecules. The multinationals are merging, and one is engulfing the other one. I think that is where we have opportunity to do something different. If we take that as a base, and we have to really prove that we can institutionalize ourselves, we can qualify for those challenges that we need in an industrialized, urbanized world, I think we need to look at validation in its all sincerity. But does the double-blind placebo-controlled trials are the solution? The reply is yes and no. We are living in a scientific myth. Double-blind placebo-controlled trials are also a myth. Because I wonder, in a city like Mumbai, when one of my patients goes to one hospital, he's asked to perform an examination test. Then he goes to other hospital after 48 hours, and he's asked to do that again. And then I question myself, where is the science? If they have standardized, where is the science? If one hospital cannot follow the same methodology, which is the second, so then I realize what is the meaning of the word myth of science is. In other words, we have been following, am I right? In the last 50 years, in India also, we have been following different kinds of research because we wanted to become modern. So somewhere we started with observational studies. Then there was a big movement in 60s and 70s where we developed pharmacological studies looking for some active principles. Then there were early clinical studies which started from institutes like Banaras Hindu University and Gujarat University. Slowly and slowly we came into the comparative studies, developmental studies we used to call in industry. So a person like me who were involved with industry, we looked at our polyherbal, multiple component ingredients to compare with allopathic drugs. And we succeeded to some extent. But obviously, there were questions because these papers will never be accepted in international journals. So though we were double-blind, I still remember one of my Ayurvedic products, we had 2 grams given 3 times a day. That was to be compared with a 3 milligram drug. Imagine the headache which I must have undergone for preparing a placebo for that, or a comparative dose solutions for that. We did all that. But these papers will never be accepted in the peer-reviewed journals. I have gone through all that. Finally, you come to the situations where now we are looking at the whole science in a different way. And fortunately, we have a new situation, which is looking at targets, which could be multi-target. The another thing is the effects. Obviously, when we take out a formulation from an Ayurvedic base, and you try to narrow it down, then you come to extracts. And this is another movement which has happened in the last 1.5 decades. That because of the fear which has been generated from Western countries of the raw material, which has might be having pesticide, which might be having a mercury arsenic, people have shifted over to using extracts. And they are not aqueous extracts, they are hydroalcoholic extracts. These extracts lose that whole Ayurvedic attribute, the whole Ayurvedic component which it has. And we are undergoing this whole issue. Which way to go? Is this good or is this bad? Ask Dr. Nesri, he must be facing this problem daily. On one hand, there is an extract industry. He must be coming and telling him, Dr. Nesri, karna padega. You have to do that because Western countries need it. On the other hand, there are Ayurvedic people who will say, we want to adhere to the classical products. We do not want to use it. And then we go to the pesticides. I remember one of the main ingredients of a very major product called Sudarshana Ganavati, Swarshia chiraita. I was head of that institute. And we found arsenic content very high. And I knew that this product doesn't have any metal. It doesn't have a single metal. It has got 59 ingredients. It's one of the most commonly used drugs for fevers, including malaria and other places. We found out that the raw material where it was grown, in Tuticorin in south, had a soil which has got high content of mercury and arsenic because of the pesticides. Now, this is a situation which we are facing. In that situation, to come up with validation approaches requires a very different approach. Here is a review of 225 papers which were published between 1967 and 2007. My pain is this, that out of 225 papers that we reviewed, only 13 had Ayurvedic diagnosis. Only 13 had Ayurvedic diagnosis. Most of them had modern diagnosis, and half of them had mixed diagnosis, unspecified, non-specific, and very, very unclear. Now, if this is the kind of work which we are going to do in the anxiety to do the clinical research, I don't think we are going to give any, we are either going to satisfy science or Ayurveda. As you can see, most of the studies were open studies. I already prepared 9 parameters in one table. The diagnostic specificity, the evaluation criteria, even from Ayurvedic viewpoint, were non-existent. In other words, I don't blame my Ayurvedic colleagues, because they are forced into a process which they are not conversant with. If I'm asked to do something on a track which I don't know, how am I going to win that track? And that is where we need a different approach. What are our issues? Objectivity, diagnostic specificity, outcome parameters, what kind of design to follow, what should be evaluation parameters, and so and so. And of course, nowadays, a new item has come, and that is ethical standards. Because somebody in the whole country, out of maybe 500, 700 studies going on, 1 or 2 people made mistakes, we are imposing the whole issue of ethical considerations in the Ayurvedic clinical research. And unfortunately, they are based on what we call as the Western parameters, based for those which are applicable for the molecular medicine. If we are going to follow that blindly, trust me, there will not be any good Ayurvedic research in the country. And we need to look at it in a very different manner. We need to look at the morality and ethics in Ayurveda on its own paradigm, not in the paradigm which is designed by the drug industry which is running. We are not industry, and let's not try to become industry. I have been part of industry, and I know what I'm talking. In other words, how are we different? We are different in terms of we are functional. Since morning, I'm hearing one word, and that is the most likable word which I have is that the whole of Ayurveda is functional. The biosphere and cosmosphere, the Pinda Brahmanda Nyaya, the individual entity versus the outside factors. We have the functional context of everything that we do. Movement, change, form, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. It is biosphere or outside, cosmosphere. There is an interrelationship between the two. And we always try to look at the disturbance in either way, either in-house, endogenous or exogenous. Another peculiarity of Ayurveda is that our hetu, the causative factors, we don't look at one agent. We look at all that might have happened to the gentleman. I've come here from Mumbai. I might have undergone jet lag. I might have undergone anxiety because my flights got changed. I might have undergone a sleep which was different, and I might have been subjected to food which is different. I have to recognize this is all thing. If I develop a pyrexia, then I'll be looking into those 4 or 5 or 6. I will not be looking for salicylic acid. And that's the difference. In other words, we are looking at hetu, we are looking at lingam. What kind of lingam will be? What kind of symptoms will be? That will help me to understand what kind of solutions I should look at, and so and so. And Aushadhi. Aushadhi is the biggest compromise thing, as Anandji pointed out right now. Imagine 1100 ingredients of plants, animal, and sea origin, metallic origin. 85,000 formulations emerging out of nearly 18 or 20 texts. It's very interesting. I want to point out here, in a country like India, when we entered Ayurveda, we are told that modern science is more specific. And we used to have an index book. Many of my Indian colleagues will know. It's called as SIMS or MEMS. It used to be hardly 30, 35 pages. Now it has become 300 pages. Because we have irrational combinations of allopathic drugs. 85% of them are useless. And they are irrational, accepted by the modern medicine. And still we are practicing it. So I'm proud of what I'm doing today, because if I have multi-polyherbal formulations, I know that they are not going to be as harmful as allopathy is going to be. And that's what we have the future there. And then we have the beautiful concept of Shat Kriyakal, how a disease takes forms. I don't have to educate you all about that. In other words, we can target, your therapeutic target could be at different stages, out of 6 anywhere, and otherwise also. In other words, when we look at I already mentioned about chikitsa, the treatment. Again, we are different. We don't look at only causative. We can look at causation. We look at expression. We can look at both cause and expression. We can go against cause and expression. We can go against cause. We can go against expression. This is the beauty of Ayurveda. Because we look at functional dysfunction. And what do I do? What do I mean by it? I already mentioned about therapeutic issues. We have natural origin. We have different forms. Those who are interested in Ayurveda here, and those who are particularly from my government friends, Dr. Nesri and other people, I really want to urge you to really concentrate on the pharmaceutical research rather than only looking at solutions. When we think of integration of modern sciences, we need to look at the modern advances of pharmaceutics, and we need to bring it into the realm of Ayurveda so that we become more consumer compliant, we become more patient compliant, so that our medicines will be more easily available in different forms. I think this is a challenge, Anji. An organization like yours can take it. Concentrate on pharmaceutics and see what happens. Now, these are just few experiences which I had, and that's why I'm telling you we need to have standardization approach. Just let me share with you. Day before yesterday, I received a dossier from one of my friends. He's sitting here for Triphala. Everybody knows Triphala. But I'm ready to bet if one company in Ayurveda in India is manufacturing the same Triphala as others. It's not possible. And that's where we need to look at Triphala tablet in a very different fashion. We need to look at Rasayana Churna in a very different fashion. We cannot standardize based on only phytochemical parameters. We need to standardize the processes, we need to standardize the storage, we need to standardize many more things. And I have been recommending to the government that they should come out with a semi-processing industry in Ayurveda that will have a very good opportunity in coming times. Let's go, what is scientific? I looked at the meaning in Greek and Latin dictionaries. Science is nothing else but an objective form, a model in which we work. Veda and science are not different. Each science, each knowledge base has to be justified based on the paradigm and the rationale which it has. I cannot force the modern scientific parameters on Ayurveda, and we cannot look at the rationale and logic of Ayurveda into the modern thing. In other words, I have a few more slides, excuse me. This is the translational approach. On left side, you will find the whole of genome, helix, molecular pathways, and whatnot. On the other hand, you will find the Vata, Pitta, Kapha, Dhatus, Srotasas, and whatnot. If we need to, this is a very important slide for any future development. The translational approaches are now possible in Ayurveda, and that is what we should be looking at. Issues are diagnostic. As my time is little limited, I began with 30-minute presentation, then I came down to 25, then 20. Now I'm doing it in 15 minutes. Let me see whether I can do that. Okay, here. The crux of Ayurveda is clinical relationship. The cause, the clinical expression, and the drug or the therapy, Panchakama therapy or whatever, they are interrelated unlike any other system in the world. And if you want to attack that, then we need to document it differently, where I have proposed a new model called as EVA. The first phase I call it as evidence, the second phase I call it as validation, and the third one I call it as acceptance. The first phase, evidence, is essentially, could be an N equal to 1 study. It could be a regular, very well documented Panchakarma therapy. It could be anything, where you have an absolute perfect documentation of what you have done. Only you should be ready to document it properly. The phase 3 is very similar to phase 4, where you go for multi-centric study, but I'm not talking about billions of dollars. I'm talking about little more number, more geographical variation, more population variation. But what is phase 2? And that is where it is different. Let me give one example. If ashwagandha is to be given as a tonic for the increasing weight, you don't have to do anything. Go to 200 students of a school, create a comparable group, give them and see simple weight gain. If the same ashwagandha I'm looking at psychotropic drug, then I need to look at it differently. If the same ashwagandha I'm looking at anti-cancer activity, then I have to look at it differently. Your phase 2 differs. And phase 2 differs because your purpose, the cause, and your clinical correlation is different. This is the beauty of Ayurveda, where your phase 2 could be different, and that is why I call it as a validation phase. I will not go into details. I have prepared all the details, but I will not go through that. In other words, each phase of this has process by which we confirm whether a particular treatment, a drug, or a therapy are useful or not. In other words, within the system of Ayurveda, within the paradigm of Ayurveda, there is enough objectivity, only we should be ready to look into that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting, very practical in its application.